it was a crazy market. And I had this client that had written on a couple of things and hadn't gotten them. And then Mandy had this beautiful basement.
It was a basement. It was first floor.
That one was first floor. You remember they went through that little...
I sold all the basements in D.C.
She went through a little basement phase for a minute.
If there was a basement in D.C. to be sold.
So she was the girl. And then we just did a lot of interaction and talking about real estate and sort of working on different things and talking about different ideas. And every time we would talk, I would end the call with, and we should be business partners. And she would end the call with, I gotta go.
Hey!
Hi.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks for having us.
You picked a really beautiful day to have us out.
We always love hanging with you.
This is the worst day I've seen.
We were going to sit outside and have lunch, but then we thought, maybe we'll just come in from the rainstorm.
I mean, we were walking from Lincoln to here, which is a total of maybe 100 feet. I mean, I couldn't take it.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know you, Mandy Mills, David Getson, you run the Mandy and David team.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
One of the largest teams in the country.
Yeah.
Always at the top of the DMV list, the top performing teams.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're one of the largest, but we're definitely one of the more successful.
I like this. I want to hear about that.
Right?
Yeah. I think the mega team is the new.
Yeah.
and we're not that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And on that,
Like Fulcrum has a gigantic team.
Yeah.
Who does?
Fulcrum.
Okay.
And so does Carrie Schull, right?
Yeah, Carrie.
Schull's got like
She's got a
30 or
giant
40
team.
people.
Yeah, she does.
So we have, we sort of run between like 15 to 19 practicing agents.
Yeah.
And that is sometimes just because we like to talk about
Our recruiting strategies.
our recruiting strategies. You know how like you go into a shoe store and you try on these shoes and you're like, gosh, these shoes are so comfortable.
Right.
And then you walk around in them and you're like, these shoes are so incredibly uncomfortable. Like, what was I thinking? But there's no way to know until you walk around in the world with them.
Yeah.
To do it.
And I think that is people selling real estate and trying to figure out if it's a good fit for them. It's for us to see if they're a good fit for the team. Like, it's all about, like, I think, there's books upon books and articles upon articles written about good hiring strategies and all that. And I think Dave and I both believe at the end of the day, like, you kind of just have to try it.
It's a marriage, all right? It's a marriage. It goes both ways. Even though
It's
you
dating.
might have,
It's like- you
it's
always
dating,
say it's
yeah.
It's for sure like
That's a good
dating.
point.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good point. It's dating, and you can have two great people, but it might not be a good fit, right?
Right, and we've had people be on the team that we had this one woman, and she was the most lovely human, and I think David had to tell her, like, real estate is not for you because you're too tender-hearted. You were mentoring her.
I was.
And she was not bad but it was just
She like lived it and breathed it in a way that was
not healthy.
Not healthy, it felt like, yeah.
And you were like, this career might not be the right fit for you. And we've had people on the team who have wanted to come in the first day and tell us how to do it.
Yeah.
And we're like, you should go
do that.
Yeah, you should do that elsewhere.
Sure.
That's all true.
And I think we like to take advice and
Yeah, you can't come in on day one, though. You can, give it a week at least to sort of take everybody's
Tell
temperature.
us what we're doing wrong.
Yeah, and then tell us what we're doing wrong.
Receiving that honesty, I mean, first of all, it could have saved that person years of pain. So that's impressive. Now, it kind of goes back to kind of what we're talking about, where you guys have kept a lot of your team together for many years. What do you think that is from?
I think it has a lot to do with the way that we treat the people, because the numbers are extremely important, but I think that we also recognize that people have life and life events. So, people, I have this, philosophically, I believe that real estate agents are extremely resilient people, and they go through so many things, and I think that we as real estate agents have to compartmentalize many, many things, and I think that when you go through something, you may compartmentalize it, but you still have to deal with this thing over here. So sometimes your numbers or whatever change, and we're not the type of organization that's like, if you don't do this amount, you can't be here or whatever. We sort of try to give everybody the breadth and space to experience what they're experiencing. We had somebody lose their mom this year. We had somebody, get pregnant, have a baby this year.
Yeah.
And I think that there are a lot of teams out there that are like teams in name, like they're marketing agreements, and they just sort of like work in parallel. They work in tandem. And I think like we legitimately care about each other. we had a big team meeting yesterday, and it's like there's a lot of brains in the room, and we want to like give a voice and a platform to all the brains in the room, and I don't think we ever feel like we're necessarily the smartest people in the room, and
For sure.
that we have all the answers. And I hope
Definitely smarter than me in the room. Always, but sure.
in different ways.
One of the reasons why I like this podcast is everyone we've had on to date, I've learned a lot about them, even though I thought I knew them. Sadly, when I was doing a little research, I feel like I don't even know when you guys met. I don't know when you met. I don't know how you guys came together. Let's hear that story.
We met doing a deal, and then I was
like 04.
Yeah, something like that, 04. So the long story long is that it was a crazy market, and I had this client that had written on a couple of things and hadn't gotten them, and then Mandy had this beautiful basement unit.
It wasn't a basement, it was first floor.
That one was first floor. You remember that you went through that little...
I sold all the basements in DC.
She went through a little basement phase for a minute.
If there was a basement in DC to be sold,
she was the girl. But yeah, so there was an apartment, and I was like, I wrote the offer, and I said, messaged her, and I'm actually, called her, because there was no messaging then probably. I called her.
We actually spoke on the phone all the time.
Yeah. And I was like, hey, I'm going to submit this offer. I'm going to expire it. And she's like, you can expire it if you want, but my client is a bit of a pothead, so he just sort of gets back to me when he wants to get back to me. So if you expire it, you're going to have to unexpire it. And I'm like, well, really what I'm trying to say is I don't want you to shop it. And she's like, I promise you I will not shop it. And I was like, you have a very honest voice, because we had never met. Yeah. And I was like, I believe you. And then she got it signed a couple of days later, and then I was like, and we should be business partners. And then we just did a lot of interaction and talking about real estate and sort of working on different things and talking about different ideas. And every time we would talk, I would end the call with, and we should be business partners, and she would end the call with, I gotta go. And so she would go, hang up on me, on her Palm, and
my BlackBerry.
On her BlackBerry, yeah. And we did that for about a year, right? About a year, and then I was like, we should be business partners, and she was like, let's talk about that now. And so that was sort of the beginning.
What brokerages were you guys at the time?
I was at Remax.
And I was a Coldwell Banker.
Yep.
And then where did you end up going when you did part?
So we formed our own brokerage with a person in the industry named Bill Hounshell, and we formed this little brokerage, and it was me and David,
Mansour,
Aburame, Tyler Garrison, Donnell, Fernando, Lindsay Dreyer.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was this teeny tiny little boutique brokerage right on the corner of 14th and P. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we were all just running around doing our thing.
Were you at that brokerage until you went to Compass?
No. We left that brokerage to go to Coldwell Banker. We decided that we needed sort of I think the arc of most real estate agents is like you run around with a bunch of buyers and you might have a listing or two, but then, you sort of evolve into being more of a listing and buyer's agent, or just listings, or some combination thereof. But as we were doing more listings, we felt like we needed more name recognition, because
and
there
more
were
exposure, yeah.
There were, maybe we lost some listings, and they sort of attributed it to a lack of, we love you guys, but we'd never heard of your company. And especially, you sort of start to leave that little Logan pocket and go to like Upper Northwest or the Hill or wherever else in the city, and they've not heard of your brokerage, and it became a hindrance after a while. So we interviewed. We interviewed everywhere. Yeah. I don't know if you remember this cultural reference, but when LeBron was looking where he was going, and he interviewed, and everyone like hated LeBron because he like talked to everyone, and everyone's like and I was like, I don't want to be LeBron.
Yeah, we just need a pick. Finally,
we were LeBron.
Very much so.
So we went to Coldwell Banker.
Nice. I was going to bring this up later, but I think it's a good segment here, which is you bring up a good point. You can have a great company, a great team, but if you don't have that name, it makes it very difficult. And I first of all
especially with the listings.
Yes, with the listings. Also hard in title. And I had on my list here to personally thank you guys and let you know that you were the big team that came over to use Ally Title. And it means a lot to us, and it matters. When people see the Mandy and David team are using us, that helps the business. People are willing to give us a try. So,
Thank you for saying that.
It's hard, though, for someone to take that jump.
Yeah.
You know, when we were looking at doing that, working together and joint ventures
Yeah.
and all that stuff, it's, you know, it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know where it's going to be. And
Well, we were the very first, I mean,
Yes.
that's another great story, but we were literally the very first team to sign on for Compass. We were Compass acquired a small local boutique firm, and then we were the first team to actively join.
so it's a habit of yours. Taking some chances.
It's funny though, because we've been approached about a few other things subsequently, and
And I'm
Mandy's
like, we don't always
"Let's
have to be
yeah, we don't
first."
always have to be first." And I'm like, that makes sense. And this, in this particular instance, that definitely makes sense.
Yes. So we were at Coldwell Banker for 7 years.
Something like that, yeah.
And we loved being there. We weren't looking, and then
Yeah.
Robert Reffkin approached us, and I was 8 months pregnant, and I was like, this is crazy. And David's like, it would be crazy to not do this, because this is the future. And so
I remember you telling me
I
about
waddled my pregnant self up to New York. My doctor was like, I don't know that you should travel. And I was like, I'm going to Manhattan. Like, if something happens,
But we
there's
did plot
9
out where the hospitals were, yeah.
He's like, I want to fax your records to
Yeah.
this hospital. So we went up and interviewed in New York.
And we took a contingent with us.
So we had this small team at the time, smaller, and we had sort of our 2 principal agents were Shannon O'Farrell and Donnell Kearney, and Shannon was like, whatever you guys think I'm good with. And Donnell was like, we've got a good we were number 7 in North America.
Yeah.
They like would fly us to Palm Beach, they'd fly us to LA, we'd speak with like the Jills of Miami,
Yeah.
and like it was like
Which is a big deal.
which is this whole thing.
Which
Sure.
is, because I mean, they're selling like
Like, they're
26
selling
million, 50.
Star Island.
Yeah, right. And we're like slogging a shit ton of condos. Am I allowed to say that?
And then we went to New York, and I'm hugely pregnant. Robert Reffkin is like making our espressos for us. Like the whole thing was
Ridiculously
funny. But we were like, this is definitely.
Well, the best part is they were in this giant building. I thought this was one of the best things, is they're in this giant building, and
I
then
know what you're gonna say.
yeah, and then like we're up on like the 7th floor, and there's people bustling around or whatever. Was it the 7th, right? Like, and then like the meeting ends, and we go into. Well, I mean, there's so much about it that's crazy. Like we go into this conference room, and there's like the little guy with the teacup.
He had his little tea, and he's like in his little sweater drinking tea, and he's like graduated from MIT, and he's trying to explain the technology to us as he's like sipping on this tea, and we're just like,
Sounds good.
you seem smart.
Yeah.
You know, it goes back to that was a tipping point even for Compass, because I mean for their company, I mean, because they really grew fast once they got a couple of big names, right? It's hard to do that, and I want to go into more of this, because I think it's like, you know, a lot of times, this is my theory on kind of maybe in a sense how they got you, like, it was important that the CEO of that company was meeting with you guys, right? Like, hey, and like that's pretty cool that he was like, I understand, he was like coming down here, he was meeting people,
Right.
And you need someone like you guys on board,
Right.
Like, was it, if you had to choose it, was it because of Robert? Was it because of the technology? Was it because of everything? If you had to think.
I mean, Robert was great. Leonard Steinberg is one of the most amazing humans that you will ever meet, and he was there, and he's just, do you know him?
I don't.
He's South African.
With his fake British accent.
He's like,
He always
wears
says that.
like the
It's so
most
funny.
dapper.
Always.
He's the most dapper dressed. He's like one of the most successful agents in the country, and he's one of the kindest people you will ever come across. Like,
Yeah.
and those two things don't often go together,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
He comes from a huge place of abundance.
Yeah.
He shares,
Yeah.
he sends an email out every single day, and has since we've been at Compass.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
every single, I mean, can you imagine?
No.
I
Makes my head hurt.
noticed just from following Robert on social, like, he still seems very involved, going to different
He
locations.
goes everywhere.
meeting with
He's
people.
face to face. He's all about that, and that's like a huge ethos of the company, and his thoughts on, you know, how to be successful in this market. and Matt Spangler,
Matt, yeah.
who was the
Chief Marketing
Chief
Officer. right?
Marketing Officer. But the funny story.
Oh yeah. So anyway, so we're in the building. We're on like floor 7 or floor 12, whatever it was. We're in this. There's all this hustling and bustling
On
and
Fifth
stuff
Avenue.
on Fifth Avenue. It's beautiful. We're getting ready to leave because we had something. We're gonna go get lunch or something. And I was like, we should leave our bags here. So we left our bags. And as we're going down in the elevator, I said to Mandy, I said, it's good we left our bags there so we can just come back and make sure it's not all a set.
Like,
Like.
remember that movie with Michael Douglas in like the night? Yes,
Yeah,
yes. We were
yeah.
like,
Amazing.
is it the game? Like,
Yeah,
are there price tags on these lamps? Is this
Yeah.
real?
Yeah.
If
we
you
had
have
a-
not seen that. An amazing movie.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I will now watch it this month because of
Yeah.
a great reminder.
But we had a really funny like it was
Yeah.
the whole thing was
We're
really.
like, is this real?
Yeah.
Is this even real? Yeah, it was crazy.
So we were the first team. So the first team in the first second market to sign on to Compass, and definitely a great decision on our part.
I
But
think so. Yes.
I also think that it was probably a great decision on Compass's part to
Yeah.
Yes.
try to get us. To
How
come over.
long from the time they first reached out till you went up to New York? What was it?
Oh, it was like a week.
Really? So it happened very quickly. So you guys
Oh,
were
yeah.
happy with where you
I mean,
were?
I was so pregnant.
Yeah.
I was like, we're not doing this. And we announced that we were going to Compass when I was in the hospital giving
Really?
birth. Yes.
That is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, so it's been a good marriage that
Yes.
you guys have had, and not just dating. Tell me about you guys. Like, I think you brought up earlier, she had an honest voice. You're very direct yourself. How do you guys work together? What are your guys' strengths and weaknesses?
I think that Mandy is like by far one of the smartest people I've ever met in my entire life, and she has basically photographic memory for anything that's number related. I think that is a strength. I think that
Sometimes.
I think that
Sometimes
she's.
it's not.
I think that
Because
she's-
I'm like, I remember that, and everyone else is like, I don't. And I'm like,
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was gonna say. I think that one of her other strengths is she can be fairly patient, because there would be times when we'd be driving around. I'd be like, "Oh, we should go see this house. It's gonna be perfect for them." And she's like, "Well, it's $100,000 more than they can spend." And I'm like, "I bet we should just still go see it, and I bet it'd still be perfect for them." I mean,
but that's his magic power. Sometimes he will sell them that thing because I'm like, this makes no sense, but let's go see it. And the next thing you know, David sold this house to these people. So yeah. David's incredibly direct and straightforward, which is super helpful for me. And one of his mantras is, "There's no bad news. There's just news."
That is
Because I'm
true.
like, oh, I don't want to call these people and give them this bad news.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's just news.
Yep. Kind of going back to the lady who didn't make it, you probably saw that it would be too painful for her to give that call,
It was
right?
never going to be bad. It was always going to be bad news. It was never just going to be
Just
news.
news,
Yeah,
right, yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
David has a bunch of isms, like David-isms. So it's like, there's no bad news, just news. And like, we're
True.
kangaroos. Kangaroos actually can't hop backwards.
Ooh.
So he's like, be a kangaroo.
Only
Just
move forward.
Love it. Love it. This is, I did not
It's your
know that.
movie.
Did not know
Yeah, it's
that.
your movie. That's another one.
If you make it a drama or a comedy, it's up to you.
we
It's your
can do
movie.
whatever we want. It's your movie.
Yeah.
The memory thing is very interesting to me. I don't remember much, unfortunately. So, but like I have people from college who are like, remember this? I'm like, nothing. Not even anything at all. And unfortunately, in my family, we have a bad memory history. But growing up with Matt, I grew up with Matt Paulson, and he had a similar photographic memory. And like, it's just remarkable to me because like for me, it just does not exist.
I have to, it's numbers and I have to see it written.
Yeah.
Like I can't hear it, I have to look at it. But if I see a number, I will generally remember it. And if I read something, I will generally remember
It's
it.
insane.
Yeah.
It's crazy cool. It's like cool because you're like, well, what like, I mean, it'll be months later sometimes, and she's like, no, it's remember when it was blah 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 blah, and I'm
Sometimes
like,
I doubt myself though. I'm like, I think it's around this.
and then it is like it's not like it's like to a decimal point. It's crazy. It is crazy.
What is one piece of advice you guys feel like you're repeatedly giving your clients?
One thing that, again, another ism, David-ism, is it's not a baby, you can give it back. And I think I just said that to some clients recently who were like, they had gone under contract, buyer's remorse is a real thing, and they were freaking out about it, and like, what might be wrong with the house? And I was like, you can either fix it or not, you don't have to, and you can sell it. You can live here for a year or two, and it's not a baby, you can give it back. And like, that has been
That's
something
helpful.
that we've said
For years.
for years and years and years. And I think that is such a comforting statement to people, and sometimes when they feel like this is something that feels so forever, like so beholden to something, and you're like, you don't have to live in this house forever.
I think the other piece of advice we give a lot is you start the process before you think you should start the process, because there is some education that goes through when you're buying, and there's some education that goes through when you're selling. And so I think that Mandy always says, start at about 3 to 6 months before you think you really need to start, because that way you can begin to get information and figure out how best to move forward in order to maximize the result, regardless of what it might be.
Well, and these listings, like how often do we slam these listings on the market because people are like, I want to be on the market in 3 weeks, but I've got 3 weeks worth of work to do. And if we had just started like 3 months ago, we could have done this at a really comfortable pace, because we want the house to be as perfect as it can when it's ready to go on the market. And we wave our magic wand, and we do a lot of behind the scenes of getting it, from the before to the after photo, and to not have that be a complete stress situation is helpful. So I think that would be my advice to all sellers. Call your real estate agent several months before you think you're ready to go, so that we can start getting the house ready.
Yeah, I mean,
at least.
And the thing is too, is it's not like, the funny thing about people sometimes is they're like, oh, I don't want to waste your time and this, that, and the other. And seeing something in the market is always valuable. So even if it's a thought in your mind, you should call and talk to an agent and have them come over. Because if somebody came to my house right now and was like, hey, I know you're not going to move, but I have $8 million and I just want to live in this location, I would sayonara. I would be out, I mean, and I think that that's true of the seller. They may just be exploring it. They may not quite be ready, but for the right amount of money and for the right opportunities, maybe you're more ready than you think you are. And I think that is something that Mandy's always been really good at conveying to people.
Yeah, I can see it on the buy side. Hey, I'm interested in buying. Maybe I can see stuff. So I was wondering on the sell side, do people reach out I don't want to sell, but I'm still reaching out to you? Is that a thing? Or is it more how do they, is that not?
I think we have a couple right now that's thinking about relocating sometime, to be closer to their kids and grandkids. It's not imminent, but it's it might be in 6 months, it might be in 2 years, but they did the right thing. They called us and they're walk through the house, what do we need to do to get this house ready, so we can sort of wrap our head around when it's the right time for us, what do we need to have prepared in that case?
So. I mean, you can't give them pricing, because it's...
You can't give them pricing. You should be today, if you sold it today.
Yeah, you can give them imminent pricing, but you can't sort of give them long-term pricing, and I think that's the...
Yeah. Well, the Mandyisms, value is a moment in time.
Value is a moment in time.
Value is a moment in time. Value is a moment in time.
Tell us about that.
Just when we go to price houses, if people are we're selling in 3 months or 6 months, help us get the house ready. I'm always value is a moment in time. We can tell you what the house is worth now, and by what it's worth, we can give you a range, because without us buying it, we cannot predict what the house is worth, but we can tell you what the market will probably bear right now. But if the house next door for you goes on the market and sells for $500,000 more or less, that is going to affect your value.
Of course.
And then obviously all the other economic factors in the world that can...
Not much can go.
Not much can go. So value is a moment in time is my favorite thing to say.
On the ism front, why don't you share another ism about each other?
Gosh, I've given all the David isms. The kangaroo, no bad news.
That's all true. I mean, you're just more...
Not a baby.
Yeah, you're just more a little bit more intermittently profound.
I'll take intermittently profound.
Yeah, no, you are. You'll say something and I'm oh, yeah, that's a whole different way of looking at it that I've never considered. I mean, I think that's part of the magic that's there. I'll give you an interesting example. It's sometimes buying the least expensive thing isn't always of good service to the community. Sometimes you need to buy the thing that's in the shop at the shop that's a little bit more expensive, that's in the community, because it serves a greater purpose within the community. And I think that a lot of times when you come from an environment where you're not accustomed to sort of thinking about life that way, sort of having somebody, that person is Mandy, sort of expose you to that philosophy is really a huge growth moment. And I feel
are we talking fast fashion?
No, I mean just all the things,
nice things,
all the things. You'll support. If you could get something ordered from Amazon, or you could get something from Each Peach, you're going to go to Each Peach in Mount Pleasant
to support the
local business, because that serves the community. So it's it's universal, and it should be especially true for real estate agents, because you get what you pay for sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's important to support the community. And I want to support an agent that supports the local business, and the local business should support those agents. And I think that that is a reference point that Mandy brought into my life 20 years ago.
Yeah, I was talking or I was listening to a guy. He owns a cyber security company, and he was saying, I have a $2,000 suit. I have this, and it all matters when I go to meet with the people I go meet with. So I'm trying to sell $50 million contracts, and so success, in a sense, begets success. I don't know if that's where you're going with that to a degree or not.
No,
It's like dress for the job you want is like a sales mantra, and it's not that.
No, it's not that.
Okay.
It's like,
Even though there is a space for that, I
Sure.
believe that. Dress for the job you want. And sometimes that might be jeans and a t-shirt because you want to do...
yeah,
we're both wearing jeans.
just for the life you want too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But this is more of like a
I think that fast fashion is like the best metaphor. It's like, you can buy something really cheaply and then you throw it away and it goes into a landfill. Or you can spend more money on a well-made piece of clothing that you're going to have forever, or you're going to pass down to somebody, and because it's going to be still in really good condition to pass down to somebody. And you can order that thing on Amazon to be dropped at your front door, but you can also walk up to the local store.
Yeah.
And that local shop owner is adding to the fabric of the community, and they're maybe also donating to the school that your kids are walking to, and they're also living in the community, and they're employing people in the community.
So it's like a ripple effect of like,
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
and I think that is something that, sometimes when you look at, sometimes I think when you talk to some agents, there's a very black and white, like what's the lowest cost, what's that and the other, like just get it from Costco. Or philosophically, Mandy's like, well, if we can get it from Costco, let's just get it from up the street. It's $5 more.
But we're supporting so many people that...
Right, it's such a small increment ultimately in terms of supporting the community, and I think that is a really important thing that she has always brought to this business.
Well, it's fine.
I will say that one of the things that is different about us, but has been a nice compliment through the years, is like David is very process oriented. So everything in our business that has to do with the process is all David. Like David is, and he's hired people to help consult with him, but he has set up like everything that makes our company run like a well-oiled machine. Like it 100% falls on his shoulders. He is orchestrated, masterminded, all that. And I'm sort of more like, it'll all work out. And my husband loves to tell me that because the people around me work it out for me. But come see, come ça.
Sure is good to be.
But I think like when he says these, he makes me sound so magical, and I very much appreciate it. But I sort of take on a more broad view of like, the feeling and the direction and all of that. But I think like it's hard not to have both of those pieces
Makes sense.
at the same time. And I think like, even though you're an incredibly emotional person, you're
unfortunately
in business, you're so process oriented. And I think that makes him a great real estate agent too, because he follows a process. He knows when to leave it sometimes, I think. But,
sometimes.
yeah. But like the structure and logistics are definitely not my strong suit. And I think that things happen, it's
But
like
the magic is.
It's the magic. Though,
I
right?
can think, but that's the thing, is like I can think of a million great ideas, but if there's no execution.
And you don't really hear a ton about like two people are exactly the same and there's this great magic, right? You have to have those different
The
perspectives.
yin and yang, right? Every real estate agent is going to do the 20 same things. You're all going to hire a professional photographer. You all are aware enough of the market that you probably know how to price it, and you're going to do all this marketing, and what are your differentiators? And one thing that you have said quite frequently is that we care more. We legitimately care about what happens with our clients and even the customers. Like we feel everybody should be treated fairly on both sides of the deal. And
Everybody deserves good service.
Everybody deserves good service, and it comes back to like what a great company to work for, because the mission statement is everybody deserves a place in the world. And I think like that rings, I say that all the time, it rings so true for me. And I think like a lot of real estate agents, and unfortunately a lot of successful real estate agents, might not have that same like...
They don't remember. That's what I think. They don't. I personally feel like they don't remember what it was like to be that buyer I mean, you said it yourself.
I
You
got
said,
a
I
piece
think.
of property in 2020, and I said I think all real estate agents should have to buy a property every like 5 to 10 years to understand like how those emotions are so big.
Sure.
And it's like you get jaded.
Yeah.
You're like, "Ugh, you're fine."
No, it makes sense. In
then
our industry, too,
Yeah.
the processors are stressed out, of course. And it's like, there's some questions I've heard a lot of times. Like, remember, when you bought a house, or, think about how frightening that is.
Right.
You have to step back sometimes.
And I like to think that I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I like to think that they just don't remember. Like it's not a.
Yeah.
But I mean, there have been times when we've talked to people and they'll say, just tell them to sign the thing. Like just have them sign the thing. Like whatever. Or I can make them sign this thing. And I'm like, well,
Just make them do it.
and I'm just like, I mean, for us philosophically, that was just crazy. We would never say that to somebody.
Caring's underrated, right? And then I'm sure your clients, they truly believe they actually care for me. So when you're sitting there 3 years later and they're like, oh, I've gotten this many mailers, but you know what? Like Mandy and David truly care. I'm calling them up. And I think that's underrated when you really think of a differentiator, because most people aren't thinking about that when they're looking at their marketing strategy.
And I think we really believe in giving back to the community, and I think that's something that's really on both of our hearts. Like, you say grocery stores and schools anchor a community, and I think like for us to be able to come in and like give money to some of the neighborhood schools, or give money to N Street Village, or do a coat drive and a canned food drive for Martha's Table. It's like we believe that everyone in the community, it goes back to the mission statement, that everybody deserves a place in the world, but everybody deserves our same love and care. And like if we're successfully selling homes in a community, that community deserves as much care as we are able to give them as well.
Yeah. What she said.
Talking about remembering, you guys have been in the industry for a few years, so you probably remember some of the tough times, whether that be 2007,
07,
exactly,
yeah,
around there. And one thing that I actually wrote down was, what will you remember about 2023? Because that was a bit of a challenge.
We had a great year.
Yeah.
We did have a good year.
I mean, honestly,
we had a good year.
But
We
I mean,
did.
our team was a little bit down, but
Our team was down.
But we personally had a pretty good year.
I mean, I think that fortitude, I think that you never know what's coming, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to prepare for what you don't know is going to happen. And so I think like trying to have amazing systems and processes in place and having an ethos of caring and giving back has luckily supported us in the times that can be a little bit more problematic, because at the end of the day, people still buy and sell all the time for whatever life changes they're going through.
And I think you have to acknowledge that to yourself. I think that sometimes if you have a bad year, I mean, everybody has a bad year.
Everybody has a bad year.
But I think you sometimes have to acknowledge to yourself that there are still people buying and selling houses no matter what. I'm going to seem like I'm from 1920, but Zig Ziglar made a fortune selling stuff during the Depression. Sure. And I'm like, if people during the Depression were able to buy whatever Zig Ziglar was selling, there's always people that are willing to buy something if you have a good product or a good service.
And need to buy something.
That's what
Right.
Yeah.
People are relocating. People are needing bigger space because they've gotten married or had babies or, unfortunately,
death or
divorce and downsizing and all of that.
And experience matters, and when you get into a tough market, I feel like, I've read this a couple times, but sometimes the best teams, they're going to benefit more from these markets because people are going to be like, look, I'm not just going to hire the person down my street anymore. I'm going to do a little research here, and I'm going to get the people that truly understand this and all that. So hopefully that will continue to benefit you guys as we deal with the tough market. I'm feeling more positive this year, just to be honest. It just feels a little better, just the vibes. And, we always prepare for the worst here. What do you guys have coming up for the Mandy and David team in the future? What does the future look like for you?
I think we're excited for interest rates to come down a little bit. I think that has definitely had a lot of consumers scared, and I think unfortunately for us, the media heavily exacerbates that. And I'm hoping that, sometimes the news cycle is not our friend. So I'm hoping the news cycle is our friend. News cycle be our friend.
Yeah, I don't really know what's going to happen. I think we all just double down and plug along, and everybody just tries to do the best that they possibly can. I mean, I think that we're always interested in picking up some shoes and trying them on and walking around in them. I think that if people are interested in a career in real estate, we're a great place to start that career.
I think new year, new you gives me this like, what's wrong with the old you, right? Like new year, let's continue to provide the same amazing service and care and processes and solutions to everybody's home buying and selling needs.
Yeah.
On the Zig Ziglar front, right? So he's invested in industries when the market is bad. So, as you're looking at people out there interested in real estate, I mean, do you think now is a good time to be a real estate agent or to start a career?
I think that real estate is a lifestyle in a lot of ways. And so I think that if you're not prepared to live the lifestyle, then it's a very hard career to take, honestly.
I think sometimes when you start in a hard market and survive, you're a better real estate agent. True. And I think we both started in a really, really, really tough market. And I think we're better for it. But I think that David's right. I think that there is a lot of like glamour in the thought of real estate. And we love to talk about all the glamorous things that I make David get to do because I don't want to do.
Do you remember when we would, oh my gosh, people would be like, oh, hey, I want to be a real estate agent. And we're like, let me tell you what that looks like. And then we're like, so basically.
Because they're like, I watch HGTV.
And you show the 3 properties and then they buy one. That seems great. This is terrific. And I'm like, well, really what happens is so you decide, do you remember this?
Yeah.
You decide.
You still say it.
You decide to get drinks with your friends at like 6. And so you're going to meet them out at a restaurant at 6 o'clock. And then what happens is you get a phone call. And you're like, oh, you guys, I'm going to be right back. Go ahead and just order something and I'll just be right back in. And then you go stand outside and you're on your phone and you're watching like them order and you're still on your phone. And they're like, so what do you want to do? Do you want to go ahead and increase, do you want to increase your escalation or do you want to stay put? Oh, you're going to need to talk with your dad? Okay, no problem. Okay, call me back. So then you go back inside and you sit down and you're like, you flag the waiter down and then you're like, I'll have whatever, and you get whatever drink. And then just as the waiter is bringing your drink, the phone rings again and you pop up and you run back outside and it's,
You didn't get the drink first though.
No, you didn't get the drink. No, like right, because you can't take the drink outside because you're on the street because you don't want everybody's, in your business because there's probably a real estate agent that's going to swoop in and, over. But anyway, take your offer. So anyway, you go and then
you're leaving a message and then you go back in and right when you sit down, they call you back and so then you have to go back out.
Right, and then you order dinner and then so basically.
You're watching your friends eat and drink through the window while you're outside waving at them.
The truth about real estate.
That is literally the truth about
it. What it is. That's it. And then don't forget when the other call comes in. Oh, something's wrong with my house. You sold it to me 3 years ago. What do I do?
Yeah, no, but it's that whole negotiation piece that takes place. I mean, honestly, that is the reason why we had our first client party because we just never got to see anybody because we would always be with them outside the restaurant, looking at them, enjoying themselves through the window. And finally, we were just like, we should have a client party and invite all of our friends and all of our clients, which sometimes then became the same, and then actually be able to enjoy it with them.
And some of our best friends in the whole world we met through
real estate,
selling them houses. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for coming. It was great seeing you guys. And
thanks for having us. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Next time, maybe we'll have some drinks. Not dry January.
Not dry January.
Yeah, not dry January.
We'll have some drinks next time.
For those people out there interested in working with you guys or maybe joining your team, what's the best way to find you guys?
Team at Mandy and David. You can find us on Insta at Mandy and David. Yeah. We'd love to hear from you.
That's the easiest way.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much.
MandyandDavid.com.
Yeah, that one too.
Love you, miss you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, see you soon.
This was so fun. Really.
Dude, that was great. I mean.